This lion had been under the care of a woman for many years, growing up in her presence, and they developed a strong friendship. However, when the woman had to suddenly move, they were separated for several years. After an 8-year absence, the woman returned, and the lion's reaction to seeing her again was unusual. What happens when a lion finally sees his beloved caretaker again? Can he truly recognize the woman who raised him, or will he react like a wild animal instead? During the past 8 years, the lion, named Marvin, had experienced heartbreak searching for his caretaker, Linda, every day. Marvin would often wait in a corner, unable to reunite with Linda for years, causing emotional distress that was difficult to witness. The sanctuary owner mentioned that the separation was challenging for both the lion and the caretaker. When Linda unexpectedly returned, there was anticipation about whether Marvin would still recognize her. Any false move or failure to recognize Linda could have had serious consequences, even leading to Marvin considering her as potential prey. However, Marvin's reaction upon Linda's return shocked everyone. Linda, a former wandering tour guide with experience in safaris, had been on many safaris before, but none compared to this one. As the group drove past giraffes, the guests were impressed, but the real highlight awaited them in the territory of the lions. Linda, aware of what lay ahead, saw the first lionesses, beautiful creatures, with some having little cubs. However, a sense of disaster loomed as the lionesses were not alone, and Linda heard warning roars urging the driver to go as fast as possible. Linda's guests looked on in confusion. However, Linda was well aware of the situation. She accelerated toward the source of the sound, identifying it as poachers, a term she explained to her bewildered fellow travelers. Arriving at the scene, the perpetrators had managed to escape. Unfortunately, when an area is tainted by the presence of poachers, a pack of lions will avoid returning, recognizing it as unsafe. That, in this case, posed a significant problem. Linda, getting out of the vehicle, slowly approached the area intending to inspect the poacher's car tire tracks. While crouching in the dirt, she heard a soft moaning and quickly located its source, a small cub left alone, as its mother had fled. Linda realized that the cub wouldn't survive without a mother to guide it through the early stages of life. Feeling an immediate connection, she took the cub in her arms, deciding to bring him to Australia to a wildlife sanctuary, promptly quitting her job as a tour guide. Linda traveled with the cub, whom she named Marvin after her grandfather. The sanctuary in Australia became their new home, a beautiful and serene place where animals, including lions, were well cared for. Linda believed it was the perfect environment for Marvin to grow up. As Marvin arrived, he captured the hearts of everyone with his playful and curious nature. Linda became Marvin's primary caretaker, dedicating most of her days to teaching him the essentials of being a lion in the wild. Witnessing his transformation from a small, helpless cub to a strong and powerful young lion, Linda developed a deep maternal love for Marvin. Over the years, Marvin grew larger and stronger, eventually being moved to a larger enclosure where he could freely roam with other lions. Despite Linda's limited time with him due to increased responsibilities at the sanctuary, she continued to visit him every day, ensuring he received the care he needed, along with other animals under her watch. Despite the constraints on her time, Linda ensured to dedicate as much time as possible to Marvin. Their playful interactions, with Marvin chasing and pouncing on Linda within the enclosure, became a cherished routine. Linda found joy in these moments, realizing that she played a significant role in shaping Marvin into the magnificent lion he was becoming. However, everything changed one day. Linda, in addition to caring for Marvin, was also the primary caretaker for her ailing mother. Initially managing both responsibilities, Linda faced a difficult decision when her mother's condition worsened. Her mother was relocated to a facility on the other side of the continent, prompting Linda to bid farewell to the sanctuary, and, more heart-wrenchingly, to Marvin. Tears streamed down Linda's cheeks as she parted ways with Marvin, recognizing that it was for the best. She had raised him to be a well-behaved lion and hoped he would find a new friend among the other caretakers. Unbeknownst to Linda, Marvin was devastated, unable to comprehend why Linda was leaving. He sat in the corner of his enclosure, waiting for her return. Despite the efforts of other caretakers to care for him, Marvin rejected any attempts from them. He roared loudly at those who approached, refusing to eat or engage in play. Concerned about Marvin's mental and physical well-being, the sanctuary staff knew how crucial Linda was to him. Determined to help him cope with her absence, they attempted various strategies, introducing other lionesses and caretakers. But Marvin remained disinterested. As months passed, his condition deteriorated, with weight loss and a dulling coat. New caretakers were brought in, hoping to restore some happiness to the despondent lion. The sanctuary staff recognized that Marvin, having been taken away too young to learn survival skills, couldn't be reintroduced to the wild. With Linda not returning anytime soon, they faced a challenge. New caretakers were brought in to help Marvin, but he didn't take well to them. Despite multiple attempts to socialize the grown lion, none succeeded. Over the years, the decision was made to leave Marvin alone. He rarely appeared in public, spending most of his time in seclusion and appearing sad whenever seen by sanctuary staff. The caretakers remarked that it was hard to witness his state. Meanwhile, Linda, aware of Marvin's situation, continued caring for her mother on the other side of the continent. Although she knew about Marvin and the caretakers, she couldn't leave her mother's side. After 8 years, the situation changed. Linda's mother, who had spent a satisfying 8 years in her new home, passed away. Linda, grateful for the time spent with her mother, spoke lovingly to her as she passed away. While it was a sad moment, it also marked the end of a chapter in Linda's life, freeing her from obligations in Melbourne. Quickly, she moved back to her former town, an exciting prospect, as it meant living close to Marvin again. However, Linda was aware that reconnecting with her lion son wouldn't be easy. She stayed in touch with the sanctuary and learned that Marvin rejected every caretaker who came after her. Reports indicated that Marvin had become isolated, jumpy, and sometimes even a bit aggressive toward human interaction. Linda, having been away for well over 8 years, wasn't sure if her connection with him as a cub would endure. She was well aware that re-establishing a connection with Marvin would pose a challenge, but she was resolute in her decision to attempt it. She reached out to the sanctuary, where the staff, delighted to hear from her, discussed Marvin's condition. Despite the potential danger they warned her about, Linda remained determined to reunite with her old friend. The unexpected turn of events awaited her as she arranged to visit the sanctuary the following week, spending days mentally preparing for the encounter. Upon her arrival, the welcoming staff showed her around the now expanded facility, revealing the growth and the presence of numerous new animals. However, Linda's sole purpose was to see Marvin. From a distance, she spotted him sitting on a rock, appearing majestic and powerful, yet undeniably lonely. The park manager informed her that Marvin had been in this state for days, growling aggressively at anyone who approached, expressing concern for Linda's safety. Undeterred, Linda approached Marvin's enclosure, where he initially seemed oblivious to her presence. As she got closer, his gaze focused on her, and she couldn't be certain if he recognized her. Standing a few feet away, she spoke softly, attempting to jog his memory. When the staff opened the door, Linda, admittedly nervous, entered the enclosure, acknowledging the reality that despite their history, Marvin was still a wild animal. What followed was a moment of suspense and uncertainty. There was initially no response, but soon everything would change. Linda felt a knot in her stomach, fearing she might have lost Marvin forever. Gradually, Marvin approached Linda, creating an air of anticipation. Would he recognize her or display the predicted aggression, as cautioned by the staff? All present held their breath, and the caretaker standing nearby, with his key ready, prepared for any unfavorable turn of events. As Linda entered Marvin's dwelling and attempted direct contact, his nervous demeanor, unusual for wild animals, raised concerns. He paced along a row of trees, intensely staring at her. Suddenly he stopped, turning towards Linda. The suspense lingered. Would he still recognize her, or was an attack imminent? With increasing speed, Marvin advanced toward his former caretaker. In a surprising twist, he jumped with outstretched claws, throwing Linda to the ground, and began enthusiastically licking her face. It became evident that Marvin not only recognized her, but was overjoyed to reunite with his best friend. The onlookers, including the caretakers, were moved to tears by the heartwarming spectacle. Though Linda's response was equally special, wrapping her arms around Marvin's waist, she reciprocated the affectionate gestures. Despite lion hairs on her tongue, she didn't mind. The overwhelming moment brought tears streaming down Linda's face as she expressed, "I missed you so much." Her voice choked with emotion, apologizing for the delay in her return. Linda could sense the affection in Marvin's inscrutable expression, knowing that their connection had been reestablished. For the remainder of the day, Linda spent time playing, grooming, and bonding with Marvin. The joy and contentment she felt in his presence affirmed her commitment to always be there for him. Referring to Marvin as a son, Linda acknowledged that she had become like a mother to him. In the ensuing weeks, she made frequent visits to the sanctuary, spending hours with Marvin, sharing stories, brushing his fur, and taking walks around the enclosure, a testament to their enduring bond. It resembled observing a well-trained dog at a dog show, except in this case, it was a 500-pound lion playfully rolling on his back. According to the park manager, Marvin's condition gradually improved over time. He became less aggressive toward other caretakers and even engaged in play with some of the other lions in the enclosure. However, the unique bond he shared with Linda remained evident. Recognizing the special connection, Linda gladly accepted her former position as caretaker, willingly embracing the moments apart from her cherished friend. Time passed and Linda and Marvin grew even closer than before. Despite an 8-year separation, their bond endured, and Linda was confident that they would always be together, no matter what. Reflecting on the years spent away from Marvin, Linda harbored no regrets. She understood the importance of taking care of her mother during that time, but now that Marvin was back in her life, everything seemed to have fallen into place. Linda shared, "There are days when I spend more hours in Marvin's cage than I do at my own home," laughing at the unique aspect of her life. At the end of each working day, she would hug Marvin one last time before leaving for home, assuring him, "See you tomorrow, my friend. You will never be alone again." That's all about this story, and now let's watch another one. The mystery surrounding how 5 clever lions were able to escape the enclosure at Taronga Zoo has been solved, with new surveillance footage showing the exact moment they broke free from lockdown around 6:30 a.m. on November 2nd. Pictures show lions, including classic Zoe, Kahali, MAA, and an adult male named Otong, sniffing around the fence after one of the cubs escaped from a hole in the metal fence and was soon followed by other lions. The zoo announced an emergency notice, and all alarms in the park were activated at the same time. Horribly, footage shows the fleeing lions following the outer boundary of the fence, while behind them, a car and pickup truck follow them at a slow pace. After catching up with them, the police found the big lion standing in the middle of the road and refusing to move. They realized that it was afraid and had to be brave to protect its cubs. After being summoned by the lioness Maya and zoo staff, the lion finally returned to the enclosure. In fact, they stayed within a few meters of the fence. Razik was the first cub to come back, followed by Zoe, the lioness, and Kahali, the male lion. Meanwhile, the zoo's emergency response team anesthetized Maka so that he could handle it safely. Otto, an adult lion, returned to the fence very late, and Marika was the last to be brought back to the nest by the breeder. They managed to block the route in time before the entrance of tourist attractions opened that day. An ongoing investigation at the zoo found that the lions had played and interacted with the fence for about 20 minutes before it was broken. When it opened at 6:40 a.m., the alarm was activated, and the zoo went into lockdown. Officials say a faulty clamp used to tie wires and cables together caused one of the wires to break, which in turn created a hole in the fence. According to the statement, the preliminary repair project proposal has been formed, and the clips that connect the wire ropes together are opened, thus unlocking the tie-up cable that connects the fence net to the tension rope. The lion made a hole in the wall and then slipped out of it. Staff at the Taronga Zoo relocated the family who had spent the night in a building near the fence. According to witness Magnus Perry, they lived in tents in the park to experience the roaring and snoring of lions. But the staff rushed into the tent area and shouted, "This is an order! Leave your things out of the tent and run over." We had to sprint within 50 to 70 meters, and then they opened the door and everybody went in. They counted us and then locked the door and left us inside. Taronga Zoo Director Simon Duffy assured visitors by 9 a.m. that the lions had been released into their natural environment without causing any harm to visitors or staff. As the lions rushed out of their enclosure before the zoo opened, the only person nearby at the time, according to a statement released by the Taronga Zoo staff, was independent professional forensic engineers who are still conducting a comprehensive inspection of the malfunctioned and complex mesh fence system. The zoo said the lions would remain in their outdoor backstage facility, awaiting professional engineering advice, and there was big doubt whether they would return to their main exhibit before the holidays. Timeline for the lion escape at Taronga Zoo. A family living in a tent near the lion enclosure is woken up by a roar at 4 a.m. At 6:30 a.m., the lion escaped from the fence. At 6:40 a.m., a lockdown alert sounded in the zoo, and all staff except lion keepers were ordered to hide in a safe area. At 6:50 a.m., about 50 guests were evacuated from their tents and moved to a safe area. At 6:55 a.m., zookeepers took control of the situation and moved the 5 lions back to their enclosure. At 8:52 a.m., Taronga issued a statement confirming the incident, saying that there was an emergency at the Taronga Zoo that morning and 5 lions were found outside their enclosure. The 5 lions did escape, but they have returned to their enclosure. The zoo has strict safety protocols for such incidents. All personnel at the site have been moved to a safe area. Visitors and staff have not been injured, and all animals are now in their exhibition, closely monitored by zoo staff. The zoo will open normally today, with further details provided if necessary. At 10:30 a.m., zoo officials confirmed the escape was caused by a gap in the fence. In another bizarre video that has gone viral, a Kuwaiti woman is photographed walking down the street with a lion in her arms. This is the moment when a woman walks through the streets of Kuwait with her pet lion. This video was taken in Sahia, south of Kuwait City. The short video, which was uploaded to the tubing on Sunday, showed the kitten writhing and growling as it was held by its owner. After walking a few yards, the lady seemed to finally put the kitten on the ground so that she could have a rest while taking it home. The lion managed to escape from a fence in the Sabahi neighborhood, south of Kuwait City. Iamba, Libya reported that environmental police were present before the big cat was brought back to the fence. Officials assisted the woman in subduing her, even though it is illegal in Kuwait and many other Gulf countries.